There's a space beyond all striving, beyond all proving, beyond the ceaseless noise of trying to become. It is a space not far away, not hidden, not reserved for the few, but quietly dwelling within you, waiting not to be earned, but to be remembered. This space is the sacred dwelling of your truest self. It is the space of divine possibility. To live from this space is to step into the rhythm of the infinite, to no longer be tossed by the winds of doubt or fear, but to be carried by the current of divine intelligence that breathes galaxies into existence and hums silently in the beat of your heart. You were never meant to manufacture worth. You were never sent here to gather love like breadcrumbs scattered by the world. You were meant to awaken. You were meant to remember that you are already what you seek. There is no lack in you. There is only the illusion of separation. The ego will have you believe that your value is a currency to be earned. That if you do enough, become enough, shine bright enough, maybe, just maybe, you will deserve to feel whole. But wholeness is not a prize at the end of a performance. It is the starting point of your existence. You were born from wholeness. You are made of wholeness. And nothing, not a single moment of pain or misstep, can erase the divine signature that has been etched into your being. You are not here to climb some cosmic ladder toward your worthiness. You are here to come home to the still space that has never judged you, never asked you to be anything other than yourself. The space that whispers, you are enough, now, not later, not when, now. And what is this divine possibility? It is not a destination, it is a state of being, a surrender, a remembrance. It is the courage to stop grasping at identity and instead become the spaciousness behind all identity. It is the willingness to let the false fall away so the truth may emerge not in thunder but in silence, not in grandeur but in grace. When you live from the space of divine possibility, you are no longer bound by the roles the world has cast you in. You are not the anxious mind nor the weary body. You are not the story of your past or the projections of your future. You are the timeless witness to it all, the presence beneath every name, the light behind every eye, the song that sings even when there is no sound. You do not have to understand this fully to be transformed by it. You only have to allow. Allow yourself to feel the breath as a miracle, to see your own reflection and recognize the sacred, to speak from a place that needs no validation. That is living from divine possibility, not through effort, but through alignment. You are not created to be small. You are not molded in the image of fear. You were spoken into existence by the same source that spins the stars. And that source lives in you, not as a tenant, but as the architect. The world may tell you to shrink, to stay safe, to color within the lines of expectation, but the soul, your soul, is not here to conform. It is here to expand. It is here to dissolve the walls of separation between you and the infinite, between you and love, between you and the God that lives in your very breath. Rumi said, "You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life?" And so I ask you, why live in the prison of fear when the gates have always been unlocked? Why deny the call when the very longing in your heart is proof that what you seek is already planted inside you? Living from divine possibility is not about never falling. It is about falling into grace. It is about standing in your imperfections and knowing they do not diminish your divinity, they illuminate it. The cracks are not flaws. They are the entryways through which the light floods in. You are not broken, you are breaking open. You are not behind. You are unfolding at the exact pace that the universe intended. There is nothing to rush toward because the miracle is not in the destination. It is in this breath, this heartbeat, this moment where you let go of needing to be anywhere other than here. The Tao teaches the way to do is to be. And when you allow your being to bloom without restraint, you step into the flow that carries all things effortlessly. You no longer fight the current. You become the current. You no longer seek to control life. You begin to dance with it. And in that dance, miracles are born not because you begged the universe, but because you aligned with its rhythm. Not because you demanded life to change, but because you changed the way you saw life. The eyes of divine possibility see not with judgment, but with compassion. They see the frightened child within every angry word, the longing behind every act of control, the aching desire for love behind every mask. And in seeing this, they do not harden, they soften, they forgive. They bless. You begin to realize that everyone is doing the best they can with the level of consciousness they've reached. And so you let go. You let go of the need to fix, to convince, to fight for your place, because you remember your place was never at risk. You belong, not because you earned it, but because you exist. You are the miracle walking, the divine wrapped in skin, the infinite made tangible. And when you live from this place, not sometimes, not when it's easy, but as a daily practice, you no longer wait for life to give you permission to shine. You shine because it is your nature. You give because you overflow. You love because that is what you are made of. To live from the space of divine possibility is to bow to the unknown and trust that it knows your name. It is to no longer resist the unfolding, but to meet it with curiosity and reverence. It is to see yourself not as a seeker, but as a revealer. Not a wanderer, but a wellspring. Not a broken soul trying to be fixed, but a luminous being remembering the truth. The truth that you are enough, that you always have been, that you always will be. And when the noise returns, and it will, when the world pulls at you with its demands and doubts, come back. Come back to the breath. Come back to the silence. Come back to the gentle voice within that knows your worth is not up for negotiation. Come back to the space of divine possibility and live there. And so we continue deeper still, not as though we travel outward, but as though we sink inward into the infinite depths of the soul that has been patiently waiting beneath the noise. Imagine for a moment a vast and boundless sky, not the sky above, but the one within you. This sky is not disturbed by storms. It does not mourn the passing clouds. It simply holds everything sunlight, thunder, silence with the same unwavering embrace. That sky is your essence. That sky is what remains when the roles dissolve, when the striving ends, when the masks are gently laid down. To live from divine possibilities is to stop measuring your worth with the ruler of the world. It is to begin trusting what the world cannot see, but what your heart has always known. You are not your reflection. You are the light by which that reflection is seen. And this light, once remembered, does not flicker in the face of darkness. It becomes the beacon. It becomes the truth that walks into every room long before your body arrives. There is a stillness that arises when you stop arguing with reality, when you stop trying to bend life to your will and instead open to the mystery of what is unfolding. This stillness is not inactivity, it is sacred participation. It is choosing to meet life not from the armor of fear, but from the softness of surrender. Not a weak surrender, not a giving up, but the holy surrender that says, I no longer need to control this moment in order to trust it. And trust, in its highest form, is not a belief that everything will go your way. It is the quiet knowing that no matter how things unfold, the deeper current of life is always carrying you toward greater wholeness, even in pain, even in uncertainty. Especially in those moments when the ego shouts that you are lost, trust becomes the whisper that says, this too is part of your awakening. When you live from divine possibility, your identity is no longer tethered to outcomes. You no longer define success by applause or recognition. You begin to realize that real success is alignment. Real fulfillment is authenticity. It is speaking words that echo your soul, not your strategy. It is taking steps that feel like truth, even when the path is unclear. And the more you live this way, the more you realize that you are not here to fit into a world that forgot how to breathe. You are here to remind it. Not by preaching, not by performing, but by being so deeply rooted in your truth that your presence becomes its own teaching, a silent invitation for others to remember who they are too. There is a divine intelligence that beats your heart without permission, that grows the trees without effort, that carves canyons with rivers that do not rush. And that same intelligence is in you, not around you, not above you, but in you. It does not need to be reached, it only needs to be trusted. So many spend their lives trying to become powerful. But the soul is not interested in power as the world defines it. The soul seeks presence, it seeks truth, it seeks connection. And from that sacred ground, a different kind of power emerges. Not the power to dominate, but the power to bless. Not the power to control, but the power to transform. You begin to bless everything, not just the joy, but the pain. Not just the clarity, but the confusion. Because you understand now that all of it is sacred. All of it is part of the curriculum of your becoming. Every heartbreak is a teacher. Every delay is a purification. Every detour is a redirection toward the truth you were always meant to live. This is not spiritual optimism. It is spiritual maturity, the kind that no longer needs life to be comfortable in order to feel meaningful. the kind that finds beauty not just in blooming, but in falling leaves, in empty fields, in the naked winter of the soul. And when you stand in that kind of faith, not blind faith, but embodied trust, you become unshakable. Not because you never feel fear, but because you no longer believe it defines you. Not because pain never visits, but because you no longer resist its arrival. You learn to meet life with open hands, knowing that nothing real can be lost and nothing untrue can remain. To live from divine possibility is to see with new eyes, eyes that look upon the world not with judgment, but with wonder, eyes that recognize that behind every face is the same presence, the same light, simply wearing a different costume. And so you soften, you forgive, not because the other deserves it, but because your soul cannot carry the burden of resentment any longer. You forgive not to let them off the hook, but to free yourself from the prison of the past. You let go, not to forget, but to remember who you are without the weight of old stories. And in that release, you rise not above others, but into yourself. And so we continue deeper into the river of remembrance, where every bend reveals another truth that was never hidden, only overlooked. There is a sacred humility that arises when you stop trying to be extraordinary and begin to honor the sacredness of the ordinary. It is here, in the seemingly mundane, where the divine speaks loudest in the sound of your breath, in the warmth of sunlight on your face, in the still gaze of a child who has not yet learned to wear a mask. Living from the space of divine possibility is not about escaping this world. It is about inhabiting it so fully, so truthfully, that the veil between heaven and earth grows thin. You do not need a temple to touch the sacred. You need only the willingness to be present, fully, courageously, nakedly present. The present moment is not a stepping stone to something greater. It is the gateway to everything you seek. And yet, how often do we bypass it in search of a better now, a more acceptable version of what is? But you see, this moment, this unpolished, unfiltered, raw reality is not in the way. It is the way. Every breath is a prayer. Every step is an arrival. There is no need to rush toward enlightenment. Enlightenment is not a finish line. It is a dissolving of illusion, of resistance, of the story that says, I am not there yet. Because the truth is, you are not on your way to becoming, you are on your way to remembering. And what you are remembering is that the divine is not a destination, but your origin. And from this remembrance, a new kind of clarity emerges. You begin to see that every time you dishonor your truth to fit in, to be liked, to be safe, you are turning away from your own sacredness. You begin to feel the ache of self-betrayal more deeply than the fear of rejection. And so you choose differently, not because it's easy, but because it is real. Realness is the soul's language. And when you begin to speak it, you no longer care if your truth is misunderstood. You no longer measure your worth in the currency of approval. You speak not to be heard, but to echo the voice of your spirit. And in doing so, you liberate not just yourself, but everyone who witnesses your freedom. The soul does not want more achievements, it wants more aliveness. It wants to feel the wind against your skin, to taste your food with reverence, to dance without choreography, to cry without shame. It does not ask for perfection, it asks for presence. The more present you become, the more miraculous your life begins to feel, not because the circumstances change, but because your eyes have changed. To live from divine possibility is to live with eyes wide open, ears tuned to silence, and a heart unguarded. It is to trust the invisible more than the visible. It is to choose peace, not when life allows it, but when your soul demands it. It is to become a sanctuary in a world that has forgotten its sacredness. And you, dear soul, are that sanctuary. You are the still point in a spinning world. You are the lighthouse in a sea of storms. You are the breath of God in a human form, not because you've earned it, but because you are it. No matter what the past has told you, no matter what shame has whispered, no matter what the mirror has reflected, you are and have always been a holy vessel, a living testament to what is possible when a soul chooses to remember its source. So let yourself remember now, not with the mind, but with the body. Let your shoulders drop, let your jaw soften, let your breath slow, and feel in this very instant that you are already home, not in a place, not in a person, but in yourself. Yes, let us go on, deeper, slower, not as a journey with steps, but as an unpeeling, a revealing like watching fog dissolve from a still lake at dawn. The lake was always there. So was the depth, so was the silence beneath the ripples. And now, as the inner fog begins to clear, we see with greater softness what has always been true. that within you is a well so deep it touches the infinite, a place not of becoming, but of being. And from this well, life begins anew, not outwardly first, but inwardly, as a subtle revolution. This is the quiet uprising of the soul, not one that seeks to overthrow, but one that seeks to reawaken. You are not here to conquer the world, you are here to re-enchant it, to touch each moment as if it were laced with God and an island, even the moments that bruise, even the ones that confuse. Especially those, for they are the sacred riddles sent not to punish you, but to draw you closer to the center of your own being. And when you arrive at that center, when you surrender to it, you do not find answers. You find awareness. And awareness, my love, is the seed of all transformation. You begin to see that healing is not the reversal of pain, but the embracing of it. That awakening is not an escape from the mess of life, but a deeper immersion into its mystery. Do not fear the mess. The mess is sacred. It is the soil from which your compassion blooms. It is the clay the divine uses to sculpt your tenderness. Every brokenness, every uncertainty, every tear shed in silence is not a flaw in your journey. It is part of the design. You are not off course. You are being carved. The Japanese speak of kintsugi, the art of mending broken pottery with gold. They do not hide the cracks, they honor them. And so too must you honor the places within you that have fractured, not as weaknesses, but as the golden lines of grace, the evidence that you lived, that you felt, that you were courageous enough to let life touch you. There is a kind of strength that does not roar, it does not push, it does not need to prove, it simply stands open, grounded, unwavering. This is the strength of the soul, aligned with the divine. A strength born not from control, but from connection, not from certainty, but from surrender. You do not need to know what comes next. You only need to remain faithful to the presence that is breathing you now. And presence is not a technique. It is not something to practice once a day. It is a way of being. It is the sacred act of bringing your full attention to this very moment, this sacred now, and declaring it enough. It is bowing to the mundane with reverence. It is brushing your hand across your own cheek and feeling it as the body of God. Do not overlook the small. The small is where the divine whispers. The small is where the infinite hides. In the way your chest rises and falls like the ocean. In the way your eyes soften when you speak truth. In the way the wind seems to listen when you finally grow still. These are not coincidences. These are sacred convergences. And when you begin to live like this, from this awakened attention, your life no longer belongs to fear, it belongs to flow. Decisions are no longer calculated, they are sensed. Movements are no longer forced, they are inspired. You begin to live not as a reaction, but as an offering. An offering is the highest art of the soul. You are not here to take from life, you are here to be a portal through which life gives itself. Not in depletion, but in overflow. You give not because you lack. You give because you are full of presence, full of peace, full of the quiet remembrance that your life is not your own. It is a thread in the great tapestry of existence. And when you see it this way, everything becomes sacred. You eat with gratitude, not consumption. You speak with care, not noise. You listen with your whole being. You love without needing to be loved back, because the love you give is no longer a transaction, it is a transmission of truth. Let this truth soak into you like warm rain on dry earth. Let it soften what has been hardened. Let it wake what has been sleeping. You are not here to get life right. You are here to live it true. And truth does not ask for perfection, it only asks for presence, for integrity, for the gentle courage to stand in your soul even when the world around you demands otherwise. And yes, there will be times when the world does not understand this kind of living, when your stillness confuses those addicted to speed, when your depth unsettles those who fear their own. But that is not your burden to carry. Your task is not to be understood. Your task is to be real, to be rooted, to be a living reminder that peace is not the absence of conflict, it is the presence of authenticity. And so we walk further into the stillness, not with haste, but with holy reverence, as though every step were upon sacred ground because an island. Not a ground made of stone or earth, but the ground of your own being, which has held you through every season, through every fall and rising again. You may not have always noticed it. You may have been swept away by storms, but the ground was there. Unshaken, waiting, whispering. To live from divine possibility is to finally hear that whisper. It is to attune your ear to the sound beneath sound, the hum beneath the hum. The still voice within that does not argue or shout, but simply says, yes, you are that. You have always been that. And when you listen, truly listen, you stop seeking permission to be yourself. You stop asking for validation from voices that don't know your soul. You rise not with pride, but with certainty, with the quiet power of one who remembers. And memory, in the deepest spiritual sense, is not about the past, it is about eternity. It is about recalling the timeless part of you that existed before fear, before doubt, before the first time you were told you were not enough. It is a homecoming to the self before story. And that self is not separate from God, it is an extension of God. You are not a visitor in this universe. You are its child, its expression, its mirror. When you weep, the stars do not turn away, they lean in. When you rejoice, the winds join your laughter. When you doubt, the divine does not retreat, it draws closer. Because it knows your doubt is not rebellion, it is longing, longing to remember. Let that longing be holy. Let it be the fire that keeps your soul warm on nights when faith feels faint. Let it remind you that desire itself, pure, untainted desire, is not a flaw, it is a compass. The pull of your own spirit guiding you back to alignment. And what is alignment if not the deepest yes? The yes to your truth, the yes to this moment, the yes to the mystery of not knowing but still walking. It is standing in the river of life with arms outstretched, not to control the current, but to merge with it. To say, I trust this flow, I trust the intelligence that carries me, I trust the unfolding, even when I cannot see where it leads. This is not passivity. It is not detachment. It is the fiercest kind of engagement. To live without clinging, to love without grasping, to create without fearing. When you live this way, the ego loosens. It is no longer the master, it becomes the servant. No longer a jailer, but a translator. It begins to serve the soul, not silence it. And the soul, oh, the soul, it does not rush. It is not impressed by your resume, your titles, your accolades. It does not care how many people follow your light. It cares only that you do not forget the source of it, that you do not dim it in fear or distort it to please. The soul thrives not in spotlight, but in sincerity. So you return again and again to sincerity. Not a forced honesty, but the kind of natural truth that emerges when you no longer perform. When your yes means yes and your no is holy. When your silence is as articulate as your speech. When you are not striving to be spiritual, but simply being what you already are, a living prayer. And prayers, when lived rather than spoken, become movements of grace. Your life becomes the altar, your breath becomes the incense, your presence becomes the offering. And the divine, which once felt far away, begins to show up in everything. Not because it was absent, but because your awareness has become present. You begin to see the sacred not just in sunsets in Scripture, but in traffic, in tears, in the grocery clerk's eyes. Everything becomes a portal. Everything begins to shimmer with the light of inclusion. You no longer divide the world into spiritual and secular, holy and human. You see that it is all God, that everything belongs. And in this belonging, you are softened. You stop needing to prove your goodness. You stop measuring your growth by how much you achieve. You begin to measure it by how often you return to the heart, by how gently you treat yourself when you fall, by how honestly you show up when life gets messy, because it will. Messy is part of the masterpiece. It is how the paint drips when the brush dances freely. It is how the clay cracks just before the form emerges. Do not curse the chaos. It is the space where new life stirs, where the old self crumbles so that the truth can rise. Let it all in. The doubt, the joy, the grief, the laughter that comes too soon, the silence that says more than words. Let life touch you deeply, for that is how it teaches. Not through theories, but through experience, through contrast, through presence. And when you live this way, your life begins to speak, not with noise, but with resonance. Your energy precedes you. Your love lingers in rooms you've left. Your presence becomes medicine not because you try, but because you are aligned, because you have returned. Yes, we have walked this spiral together, not as a ladder with rungs, but as a sacred unfurling. Each word, each breath, each turning inward has not brought you somewhere new, but has peeled away the veils from where you've always been. And now, as we near the final notes of this sacred remembrance, there is no crescendo, no climax, only deepening, only quiet, holy descent into the ground of your being, the space of divine possibility made real. This is not an end. It is the breath that comes after exhale. The pause before beginning begins again. And here, in this pause, you find what the world cannot offer: peace without a price, love without condition, truth without disguise. This is the final remembering that you were never on a journey to acquire. You were on a journey to surrender, to shed, to let go of all that is not you, until only the radiance of your true self remained. The self that does not fear silence, the self that does not chase validation, the self that stands without needing armor, because it knows it is always known that it is clothed in the fabric of the eternal. You were never meant to impress, you were meant to express. You were never here to compete, you were here to contribute, and not by doing more, but by being more you. The most authentic, unguarded, luminous version of yourself. The one who laughs from the belly and forgives from the marrow. The one who dances even when there is no music, because the music is within. And yes, the world will still swirl, the winds will still rise, but you, anchored in the spaciousness of divine possibility, will not be carried away. You will breathe, you will bow, you will bless. Because you have become the stillness you used to seek. You have become the answer you once chased. You have become the home you believed was far away. This final return is not a destination. It is a way of being. It is the sacred art of living with your soul in the lead, of letting your words be dipped in presence, of letting your gaze be one that sees not just form but essence, of letting your love be so wide, so unguarded, so deeply rooted in truth, that others remember who they are just by standing near you. And this is the miracle, this is the grace. When you live from the space of divine possibility, you do not need to fix the world. You need only to radiate the truth of your being, and the world begins to remember itself. Not because you changed it, but because you changed the frequency from which you relate to it. And so, beloved soul, live now, not tomorrow, not when the stars align or the wounds are gone or the world applauds. Live now from the center of your being, from the stillness behind your eyes, from the infinite sky that has always been your soul. Walk softly, speak truly, love wildly, forgive quickly, and hold nothing back that is meant to be given from the wellspring of your spirit. You are no longer seeking the light. You are the light. You are no longer looking for a sign. You are the sign. You are no longer trying to become. You are, and that, dear one, is enough. That is everything. That is living from the space of divine possibility. And now you remember, and now you are free. There is a sacred rhythm, an invisible thread that hums beneath the surface of all things. It flows through the whispering wind and the crashing tide, through the tears that fall quietly at midnight and the laughter that erupts in sunlight. It is the great breath of life itself moving through you, around you, as you, and it declares in every moment everything in the universe is connected. This is not merely a poetic thought or a spiritual platitude. It is truth, vibrating at the very core of your being, waiting not to be proven but to be remembered. You are not separate from life. You are not apart from nature. You are not isolated in your experience. You are the sky, the river, the star, the seed. You are the dreamer and the dream. And when you remember this, even for a flicker of a second, something ancient in you stirs and awakens. We live in a world that teaches us to divide, to label, to cut life into fragments. This is good, this is bad, this is me, this is them. But the soul knows no such boundaries. It sees through the illusion of separation and whispers gently, all is one. The leaf does not fall alone. It dances on the breath of the same wind that moves the galaxies. Your heartbeat is not isolated. It echoes the pulse of the entire cosmos. You may think your thoughts are yours alone, that your sadness is private, that your joy belongs only to you. But energy does not lie, and it does not obey the ego's wish for division. Your emotions ripple out into the collective field. Your healing lifts more than just your own burden. Your light brightens the way for more than just your own path. You are a note in the great symphony, and without you, the melody is incomplete. The mystics of old, Lao Tzu, Rumi, Jesus did not speak of unity as an abstract idea. They lived from it. They knew that to hurt another was to hurt oneself. That to forgive was to return to the truth of connection. That to love without condition was to remember God. Because God is not distant. God is not separate. God is the very space in which all things arise. God is the connection itself. And so, when you gaze at a tree, Know that it is not something outside of you, it is a reflection of you. When you see a stranger, you are meeting another expression of the same divine presence. And when you sit in silence, breathing slowly, feeling the warmth in your chest that is not loneliness, that is your soul reaching out across eternity, touching everything that ever was and ever will be. The ego resists this truth. It clings to identity. It wants to be special, distinct, superior, or at least separate. But the moment you drop that illusion, the moment you stop defending your borders, something miraculous happens. You expand, you soften, you open. And in that openness, you find not vulnerability, but power. Not weakness, but wholeness. Because it was never about being separate, it was always about remembering your place in the great fabric of existence. To feel connected is to heal, because all dis-ease begins with a belief in separation. The moment you think you are alone, unloved, unworthy, you disconnect from the source of all life. But when you return, when you remember, you plug back into the current of the universe, and healing rushes in like water through a cracked dam. Look at the cells in your body, billions of them, all communicating, collaborating, pulsing in harmony. You are a living orchestra, and so is everything else. The trees speak to one another underground through their roots. The oceans dance with the moon. The birds follow magnetic fields you cannot see. There is intelligence in every corner of creation, and it is not foreign to you. It is you. You are made of stars. This is not metaphor, it is biology. The carbon in your bones, the iron in your blood, the oxygen you breathe, it all came from ancient celestial explosions. The universe birthed you, not just long ago, but in this very breath. You are not in the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself in form. So why do we forget? Why do we feel lost, alone, afraid? Because we've mistaken the costume for the character. We believe the story instead of the storyteller. We've looked at the wave and forgotten it belongs to the ocean. But the wave cannot be separated. It rises, it falls, and it returns, just like you. And when you stop trying to be the wave, when you stop fighting the tide, you feel the vastness of what you truly are. You do not need to go anywhere to find connection. You only need to be present. The connection is not out there, it is here, now, in this breath. In the feel of your feet on the floor, in the rhythm of your breath, in the miracle that you can read these words and something deep within you is nodding, remembering. This life is not a puzzle to be solved. It is a dance to be joined. Every person, every moment, every joy and sorrow is part of the same movement, the same dance. And when you stop resisting, when you join the flow, you are no longer a stranger. You are a sacred participant in the unfolding of all things. When you bless the world, you bless yourself. When you judge another, you wound yourself. Because there is no other. There is only one life, one being wearing 1,000 masks, playing 1,000 roles. But always, always behind the mask, there is only light. And that light is you. Let the tears come if they must. Let the heart crack open. That is how the light gets in. That is how the truth is remembered. Not through intellect, but through feeling, through presence, through surrender. There is no more sacred act than to be here, fully, now, with your pain, with your joy, with your questions, with your silence. Because when you are present, you are plugged back into the field of intelligence, of love, of unity. You do not have to earn it. You cannot deserve it. It is already yours, already here, already now. So trust the pull you feel toward truth. Trust the longing that brought you here. It is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the soul remembering its source. And that source is not far. It is not distant. It is not lost. It is you. And it is everything. Everything is connected. And so, as you listen more closely to the silence between your thoughts, you begin to feel it, a sacred pulse moving through all things. This pulse does not come and go. It is not louder in joy or fainter in sorrow. It is steady, eternal, like the hush of stars in the night sky or the stillness beneath a storm. It is the presence of life itself, whispering that no matter what has happened to you, no matter what stories you've carried or identities you've worn, you have never been outside the embrace of this oneness. Even your pain, even your confusion has been part of the connection. You see, nothing is wasted in a universe woven from divine intelligence. Every sorrow is a doorway, every question a compass, every loss a quiet redirection towards something deeper. The tears you thought made you weaker have watered the roots of your awakening. The silence you feared was abandonment, was the sacred space where your soul could finally speak. The trees don't rush. They don't try to be taller than the others or bloom before their time. They trust the sunlight. They trust the rain. They lean into the seasons with a kind of knowing that defies words. And you too are part of that wisdom. Somewhere beneath the noise of deadlines and expectations, beneath the layers of fear and performance, you know how to be. You know how to trust. Because your very being was born from trust, the trust of cells dividing, of hearts beating, of breath flowing without instruction. It is only the mind that forgets. It is only the ego that interrupts the dance with its need to control, to compete, to compare. But the soul, it does not hurry. It does not need permission to be worthy. It simply exists, quietly radiant, waiting for you to return, not through effort, not through striving, but through softening, through allowing. The deepest truths are never shouted, they are felt. They are remembered in the hush before dawn, in the warm gaze of a friend, in the quiet of your own breath when you finally stop running from yourself. These moments are not small. They are the gateways to everything. They are where the illusion of separation begins to dissolve. And you remember not as an idea, but as a living experience, that the river is not separate from the sea, and you are not separate from the source. Every person you meet, every soul you encounter, is another thread in this vast sacred tapestry. You were never meant to walk alone. Even in your solitude, you are held. Even in your silence, you are heard. The same light that burns in the stars burns in your chest. The same intelligence that choreographs galaxies beats your heart. To recognize this is to awaken not into some exalted state above the world, but into a deeper presence within it. This presence does not ask you to escape your life. It asks you to enter it more fully. To see the divine, not only in meditation or ceremony, but in the mundane, the dishes, the traffic, the waiting rooms, the misunderstandings. For if everything is connected, then nothing is outside the reach of grace. Even your mistakes, your detours, your longings, they are all part of the sacred map unfolding beneath your feet. There is a kind of freedom that cannot be taken, only realized. It is the freedom that comes not from changing your circumstances, but from seeing through them. From recognizing that the same consciousness experiencing your life right now is the same that experiences the entire cosmos. You are not a bystander to this miracle. You are its expression. And this expression is not something you have to force. It is something you allow. Just as the flower does not strain to open, your soul does not need to push to become. It only needs the warmth of your awareness. The soft gaze of your presence. And when you bring that presence to your thoughts, to your pain, to your fears, they begin to shift, not because you conquered them, but because you finally saw them without judgment. There is no need to resist what is arising. Resistance only tightens the knot, but surrender, the sacred surrender of meeting each moment with openness, unravels the illusion of separateness thread by thread. You begin to realize that the people who challenge you the most are also your greatest teachers. That the parts of yourself you once exiled are simply fragments waiting to be welcomed home. That the world is not against you, it is reflecting you. This reflection is not always flattering, but it is always accurate. And it is never a punishment, it is an invitation to go deeper, to peel back the layers, to see the face of the divine, not just in temples or scriptures, but in the stranger, at the checkout line, in the ache of longing, in the laughter that escapes you when you least expect it. Everything is speaking to you. Not in words, but in energy, in rhythm, in vibration. And when you begin to listen, not just with your ears, but with your entire being, you realize there is no such thing as coincidence, no such thing as separation, only alignment, only resonance, only the song of life playing through every thread of existence. And the more tuned you become, the more you begin to sing along, not with effort, but with grace. You start to live not out of reaction, but out of alignment. Not from fear, but from truth. You become less interested in being right and more devoted to being real. You become less attached to outcome and more surrendered to presence. This is the way of the connected soul, not a path of escape, but of embodiment. Not an ascent out of humanity, but a descent into divinity. You were never meant to transcend your life. You were meant to inhabit it fully, to live as the bridge between heaven and earth, to remember with every breath that the sacred is not somewhere else. It is here, and it is now, and it is you. When you walk through the world with the eyes of your soul open, even the ordinary becomes luminous. A falling leaf is no longer a sign of decay, but a testament to trust the tree releasing what is no longer needed without resistance, without fear, without needing to know what comes next. This is the art of living in harmony, to release with grace, to trust the unseen, to surrender not in defeat but in reverence. The soul does not chase, it attracts through stillness. It calls forth what aligns with its truth by simply being what it island. And when you return to this truth, when you rest in the knowing that your presence is enough, your essence is sacred, you stop reaching outward and begin radiating inward. That quiet radiance becomes your compass, guiding your choices, your words, your very breath. Nothing in nature rushes, yet all is accomplished. The sun never hurries to rise, yet it warms the world each morning without fail. The river never forces its course, yet it carves canyons through ancient stone. There is power in surrender, not the kind the mind understands, but the kind the soul remembers. A power that does not dominate, but harmonizes, that does not push, but flows. And you are that flow. You are not a fixed point, not a label, not a final product. You are a living process, unfolding in divine timing, dancing to the rhythm of a universe that has never made a mistake. Even your detours, even your doubts are sacred steps in a choreography far more beautiful than anything the mind could script. We are conditioned to measure our worth by what we do, what we have, how we are perceived. But the soul knows nothing of such measures. It is not interested in applause. It is not seeking validation. It is simply here to express the unique thread of the infinite that only you can carry. Not to impress, not to achieve, but to express freely, fully, fearlessly. And in that expression, you liberate others. Because when you live from truth, when you walk in alignment, your presence becomes permission. You become a mirror in which others can see their own light. You don't need to fix them. You don't need to save them. You simply need to be the embodiment of remembrance. We are not separate souls wandering alone. We are facets of the same jewel, rays of the same sun, notes of the same eternal song. And the more you tune into that harmony, the less fear you carry. Because fear is the child of separation. It grows in the shadows of me versus them. Not enough, what if? But when you return to the truth of connection, fear has no place to root. In its absence, love blooms. Not the conditional love that demands or clings, but the love that simply sees, that bears witness, that blesses without needing to change. This love is not something you do, it's something you are. It pours through you like light through a window when the curtains are drawn back. It does not discriminate, it does not calculate, it simply shines. And that shining begins not with the world, but with you, with how you see yourself, with how gently you speak to your own heart, with how willing you are to sit with your own pain without judgment. Because the more compassion you bring inward, the more naturally it overflows outward. This is not selfish, it is sacred. You cannot offer what you do not embody. You cannot light the path for others if you are hiding from your own. And so the journey home must begin within, not in solitude, but in intimacy with the self you've long avoided, the self beneath the roles, the self beneath the striving, the self that's simply island. That self has never been broken. It does not need to be healed, it needs to be revealed. It is not lost, it is waiting, waiting for you to be still long enough to feel it, to hear its soft call beneath the noise, to trust its wisdom over the loud demands of fear. And when you do, when you remember who you are beneath all the forgetting, you come alive in a new way. Not as someone improved, but as someone revealed. You begin to see not just with your eyes, but with your soul. You recognize the sacred in every encounter. You move through the world not in haste, but in grace. This grace is not earned. It is not the result of perfection. It is the natural fragrance of a being in alignment. And you are always one breath away from it, one moment of surrender, one heartbeat of remembrance. Let the past be the teacher, not the jailer. Let the future be the canvas, not the cage. Let this moment, this sacred, pulsing, living moment be enough, because it is enough. Because you are enough. And because in this moment, you are not separate. You are home. And when you truly arrive in this moment, not in body alone, but in awareness, you will feel it. That quiet, living current beneath your skin, whispering, you are not a part. You are a thread in the divine weave. You are the breath the universe takes when it wants to experience love. This is not poetry. This is not metaphor. This is reality seen clearly through the eyes of the soul. The illusion has always been that we are separate, that we must earn our place in the cosmos, that belonging is a reward for good behavior. But belonging is not a prize, it is a truth. And the only thing that keeps you from feeling it is the belief that you do not. Strip that belief away, and what remains is union. Still, present, undeniable union. Not with someone else, not with something else, but with all things, because there is no other. There is only the one expressing itself through many. And once this truth roots itself in your being, your entire orientation begins to shift. You move from striving to surrender, from control to trust, from analysis to awareness. You begin to feel life not as a sequence of problems to be solved, but as a sacred story unfolding perfectly, chapter by chapter, with you as both the reader and the page. And oh, what a story at Island. A story that needed every joy and every sorrow, every loss, every miracle, every unanswered prayer. A story that used even your forgetting as a pathway back to remembrance. A story that has never, not for one breath, excluded you from its center. Because you are not a side character in this divine play, you are the beloved. Yes, even when you doubted. Yes, even when you stumbled. Yes, even when you turned away from yourself and said, I am not enough. The love did not leave. The connection did not break. The light within you only waited patiently for you to remember that you are not your shame. You are not your wounds. You are not the dust on the mirror. You are the reflection itself. And it is in your stillness that the mirror clears. Not in your performing, not in your fixing, but in your being. The more you soften, the more you see. The more you let go of what you think you are supposed to be, the more you realize what you always presence, awareness, love. This is not a lesson to be mastered. It is a truth to be lived. Not in grand declarations, but in small sacred acts of attention, listening fully when someone speaks, feeling the warmth of your tea before you sip, watching the sky without needing it to change. These are not distractions from your spiritual path. They are your spiritual path, because everything is connected. And in that everything, nothing is too small to matter. Even your breath is holy. Even your pause is prayer. Even your confusion is part of the unfolding. And that unfolding does not need your control, it needs your trust. The flower does not open by effort. It opens because the time is right. And so do you. When the defenses fall, when the masks slip, when the voice within you grows louder than the noise outside of you, then and only then you begin to feel it, not as an idea, but as a living force, the interconnectedness of all things. You begin to see that every encounter is sacred, every moment a teacher, every pain a portal. You no longer push away what you once feared. You lean in, you listen, you bless it. Because the moment you see the divine in all, you begin to trust the divine in all. You stop needing proof. You stop needing permission. You start living as if the entire universe is your companion, because at Island, you walk with an unseen hand on your back, with whispers from the stars echoing in your chest, with the rhythm of the moon guiding your tides. You no longer chase the light. You carry it. And so you carry the light not as something earned, but as something remembered. It flickers in the stillness behind your thoughts, glows in the warmth of your gaze, and hums in the words that rise unfiltered from your heart. The light does not announce itself. It does not demand a stage. It simply shines. And in shining, it reminds others that they too are made of stars. You see, you do not need to save the world. The world is not broken. It is in the midst of remembering. And your only task, your only sacred responsibility is to be what you are. To stand rooted in the quiet, knowing that everything belongs, even this, even now, even the part of you that still doubts, still aches, still resists. For even resistance is part of the sacred dance. The wave does not resent the shore. It returns again and again, not because it must, but because it is its nature to flow. And it is your nature to return to presence, to return to stillness, to return to love not as something found, but as something allowed. And when you allow love to move through you unfiltered, unbound, unconditional, you become a living vessel of the truth. That connection is never lost, only forgotten. The moment you forgive, you bridge the illusion of separation. The moment you bless what once wounded you, you reclaim your power as a creator of peace. The moment you hold your own heart with tenderness, you send ripples of healing into a field that spans all of time. This is how the world is healed. not through noise, but through presence, not through urgency, but through reverence. You do not need to change everyone. You only need to embody the change so fully that it becomes contagious, so fully that your very presence shifts rooms, opens hearts, softens walls. You become the silent invitation, the open door, the calm harbor, the living reminder that there is nothing to chase, nothing to prove, and nothing to become. Because all becoming is a remembering, and remembering is the return. The return to the truth that you are not a drop in the ocean, forgotten and small. You are the ocean in motion. You are the breath of life clothed in form. You are the song of the infinite, echoing for a brief moment as this beautiful, sacred, imperfectly perfect human being. You are here to feel it all. The beauty, the ache, the fear, the joy. You are not here to rise above your humanity. You are here to infuse it with divinity, to take the mundane and make it holy, to take the fleeting and see it as eternal, because everything is a reflection of the whole. And in that reflection, nothing is left out. No tear is wasted, no joy is insignificant. No moment is meaningless. All is held, all is honored, all is one. And so we arrive, if arrival can even be spoken of in a universe without end, at the soft truth we have been circling all along. Everything in the universe is connected. And that connection lives within you, it breathes through you, it weeps with you, it sings through you, it never left you, it cannot leave you, because it is not outside of you. It is you. And you, beloved soul, are not lost. You are home. You do not need to retreat to mountaintops to find the sacred. You only need to see the sacred in what is already here. The sound of your footsteps, the softness of your breath. The way the sunlight dances across a window pane. These are not distractions from your spiritual path, they are the path. The world is not hiding truth from you. It is whispering it always, through the language of beauty, of presence, of connection. Every encounter is an invitation, every emotion is a teacher. Every challenge is a sacred test, not of your strength, but of your willingness to remember. Will you see the light in this moment? Will you trust that even now, is a thread in the great design? Will you meet the world, not with resistance, but with reverence? Because when you do, when you walk through your life as if it were a temple, everything begins to respond to you differently. The people you meet feel safer in your presence. The chaos around you softens. The fear within you begins to dissolve. Not because the world has changed, but because your frequency has. And that frequency is your greatest gift. Not your resume, not your achievements, not your image or your accolades, but your energy. The vibration of your being when it is aligned with truth. That silent hum that says without words, I remember who I am, and I see who you are too. This remembrance is your power. This connection is your inheritance. This unity is your home. So breathe it in, let it settle, let it anchor in your bones so that when the noise of the world returns, you are not shaken, you are not pulled, you are not lost. You are rooted in something deeper, rooted in being, rooted in love, rooted in the eternal truth that everything is connected. And you are not a visitor to this truth. You are its expression. You are its voice. You are its living proof. So go now, not to change yourself, but to live more fully as what you've always been. And let your life be the quiet revolution, the gentle remembrance, the steady light. Let your presence be the prayer. Let your truth be the guide. And let your soul once and for all come home. Here, now, in the oneness that never left you, in the love that always was, in the sacred silence that says without words, without doubt, you are connected, you are whole, you are already what you seek, and now you live it.